Well, moving on, we just had an anniversary. On December 10th, 1972, Ric Flair had his first match, a 10-minute draw with Scrap Iron George Gadaski at Rice Lake, Wisconsin. Do you remember anything at all about that match?
Yes. Vern Gagne looked at me and said, go out there and wrestle him for 10 minutes. I said, what are we going to do? He said, go out there and show me what you got. I swear to God. That's how I started. And
now, were you heel, babyface? Who called the match? How'd it go down?
Oh, I was the heel. George just said, George Gadaski was one of these great guys that, put in all these hours driving a ring truck, put the ring up and all that, and then would get a match, and then he'd referee the rest of them. But he treated me great. He knew that I absolutely knew nothing, and we just did like a headlock, takeover, arm drag, stuff like that. And really, at the end of 10 minutes, I was blowing sky high. Even though I got myself in really good, but that was after the camp ended. So I was in relatively good shape. I started at 310 pounds. By the time the camp was over, I weighed 270. So, yeah, I couldn't wait to bleach my hair. You know what's funny? Bunny Graham, Billy Graham's wife, was the first person to bleach my hair. It'll be 50 years next September. I got to live that long, Marco.
Yeah, you'll make it that long and then some. And that segues nicely into our Friends and Foes segment, because the friend is going to be your trainer, the late Vern Gagne. How did you come to train under Vern, Nate? How did you meet him, and what were the circumstances?
Well, I knew Greg from high school. Greg went to Wayzata or Minnetonka High School, I think Wayzata. And I met Greg some over on campus and all that when I was in college. I think Greg transferred to Wyoming. And I was there to play football at Minnesota until my grade point average didn't appeal to the dean or to the coach. But then I met Ken Patera, as I told you, at a club called George's in the Park, and I'm going to see Ken this Saturday actually, at Icons of Wrestling in Philly. And Ken Patera is the reason I'm in the business. He said to Vern, I'm living with Ric Flair. And he said, Flair, I know that name. He said, yeah, apparently a friend of your son, Greg's. He said he wants to be a wrestler too. So I lived with Ken for 2 years. He went off, 72 Olympics, and the idea, and Vern sponsored him. The idea was that if he came back with a gold medal, he'd be called the world's strongest man. Well, 6 weeks before the games, he had to have orthoscopic knee surgery. So 3 weeks he couldn't train because everything was with your knees with Olympic lifting. So with 3 weeks of training, after being off for 3 weeks, he still won the bronze medal. But he clearly would have won the gold medal had he not been injured. Just a great guy. And man, he's been through some traumatic, situations in life. That thing with Saito and that, and just that, a couple of years in prison as a result of some stupid incident at McDonald's. And then to have, he's got both shoulders replaced, both hips replaced, both knees replaced, and his body has taken a toll on him. What people don't realize about Ken, he was also an alternate on the 72 team in track and field. He threw the shot 68 feet at BYU. So if you make it Olympic team in two sports, you're probably a pretty good athlete.
I would say so. By the way, I just glanced at the lineup for Icons of Wrestling. Your old buddy Shane Douglas is going to be there. I think that should be your final match. You and the Dean.
Oh, he's working, huh?
Yeah.
I'll get. I'm sure he'll say hi. we always shake hands and walk our own way.
Now, when you started training, were you a wrestling fan per se? Was this something you wanted?
Yes.
Oh, you were always a wrestling fan.
Yeah, but nothing I ever dreamt that I'd be involved in. Yeah, I loved watching wrestling. Are you kidding me? I dragged my dad down there. Dad, come watch, Crusher, the Bruiser, Vern Gagne, Butch Levy, Leo Namalini, Ilio DePaolo, Carpentier, Wilbert Snyder. I mean, the guys that came through Minneapolis were just fabulous. It's a hall of fame in itself. And eventually I got to meet all those guys. Mad Dog Vachon, who I became really good friends with. Gagne, if you want the title back, meet me in the ring. Gagne.
Now, what was the main thrust of Vern's training? Conditioning was a huge part of it,
Oh
obviously.
my God, insane. We had no idea. I was like at the house saying I was going to be like Dick the Bruiser, the Crusher. Oh, I know. I'm not saying they couldn't have at one time, but they certainly couldn't run 2 miles, do 500 free squats, 200 push-ups, and 200 crunches. It took me 6 hours. I'm betting neither one could have done it, period. But they were later in life. And at one time, the Bruiser, Dick Afflis, played football for the Packers. He was a good athlete. So that I don't know what the Crusher's background is, but Dick Afflis was a good pro football player, or average.
Now, we had the Crusher in Pittsburgh. He was a rival for Bruno Sammartino
Sure.
when I was a kid. So I have many memories of him as well.
The Bolo punch. Hey, I'm gonna meet you guys. He was talking about, when I started talking about the women, it's because I heard him talking about the dollies at the saloon in Milwaukee. I'll meet my dollies at the saloon in Milwaukee.
Now, you quit at one point, right? You just went home.
Twice. I didn't show up. First time he came and got me, slapped me across the face, threw me out in the front yard, told me I quit everything in the world. I wasn't going to quit him. And the second time, I was just about, I got through the 2 miles, and I was just saying to myself, he's not watching. I'm just going to get in my car and go and hide. Got to check in a hotel. By the ear. So it was a learning experience. But the whole thing, it's something I look back on now. I don't know how I did it. But even when I go to train now with Rob, John Cena's guy who I train with regularly, I find myself being able to go back and find that inner, whatever that was that drove me to do that, because I did those 500 squats. There was no such thing as Stairmasters in that when we started, right? Treadmills. Then, of course, all this equipment has come along and all technology has changed. But I did those 500 free squats every day for 20 years until they invented a Stairmaster.
Now, who did you train with?
I still do them now, once in a while.
Who did you train with besides Vern? Who were the other teachers at Vern's facility?
Don Morocco, Joe Scarpello, who was a national champion at Iowa. Don Morocco, Jimmy came out there and Billy Robinson.
Now, there's a couple other loose news items I want to talk
Scrutinized,
about.
but not scripted.
Well, yeah, very closely scrutinized, I think. There's a couple other items I want to go over, but there's one I'm not even sure you're aware of, but the big fuss in AEW was Taz's kid debuted Friday night, Hook. He'd been on TV like forever, never wrestled, but he finally debuted. He beat Fuego del Sol, who's an enhancement guy, but a very good enhancement guy. And he had this kind of like MMA style work and an MMA style entry. I don't know if you saw it or the reaction to it, but what have been some of the biggest debuts you've ever witnessed? The biggest and best debuts that you've seen in wrestling?
Well, recently, the one that really stands out to me is when AJ showed up. Is it 5 years ago now?
Right.
Out of nowhere, and I'd always hoped he'd come here, but I guess he had gone from TNA to Ring of Honor or Japan. But when AJ Styles walked out on Raw or SmackDown, whatever night it was, I thought, he was over with. Everybody knew who he was, and he's been over ever since. Other debuts, I don't know.
I really liked when Jericho walked out on Raw, but then again, everybody knew it was coming.
When was that?
Boy, I forget what year it was. It must have been 98, maybe?
Oh, when he came from WCW?
Came from WCW, right.
Oh, yeah.
He cut the promo, interrupted The Rock's promo.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that, yeah. Yeah, well, Chris has always been well received, and a good promo guy, too.
None others come to mind. What about when the Nature Boy walked out on that Tuesday Night Titans with the belt? That was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and also because of where it was, when I walked out after being off TV for a year to become part owner of the company, we were in Charlotte that night. And that was pretty cool for myself, you know.